Hey, thanks for joining us for episode 3 of Warrior Mat Talk. I'm your host, Riley McClurg, and today get to share a very, very special podcast with you guys as I had the honor and privilege to sit down with Indiana wrestling legend Andrew Howe. But before we get to that, let's hear from our title sponsor out of Clayton, Indiana, Freegie and Freegie Auctioneers.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for joining us, man. Really excited to have you on. How's things going up in Evanston, right, Illinois?
Yeah, things are going great. We're just enjoying a little bit of downtime right now after the NCAA tournament and ready to get back to work next week.
Nice. So what's speaking of that, right? You come fresh back from Detroit, and we kind of touched on earlier 10 national qualifiers, 4 All-Americans, a national champ, a great week. What's the next step in a room like that, especially in a Big Ten room, a Division I room? You take a week off, and then is it straight to planning on UWWs? What's the next step in your guys' mind?
The next step, competition-wise, we'll have a number of guys competing at the Open and UWW Juniors in the end of April, and then looking to put together a strong spring and summer of training and just continuing to develop guys. We'll have a number of guys also competing at the U23s at the end of spring. It's kind of a nice way to cap off the spring training cycle, and hopefully throughout those 2 tournaments, we end up getting some guys on the world teams in those age-specific groups, and hopefully maybe some guys in the senior team as well.
Yeah, that'd be pretty special. Now, Deacon winning a national title, right? That gets him. Does that get him a spot in the World Team Trials? Is that correct?
He's qualified. Yes. Yep.
Qualified automatically. So that's a good deal. Good deal, man. Well, I guess I doubt there's going to be very many people viewing this that don't know who you are. In terms of your recognition as an athlete, especially from the state of Indiana. And so if they don't know who you are, right? Andrew Howe, right? From Cedar Lake, Indiana, 3-time state champion, 192-1 in high school for Hanover Central. And that one loss came right freshman year in the state finals, and not just to any slouch either, right?
Yeah, Reese Humphrey. I still owe him one.
Yeah, man, run that back. We'll need to get Reese on here for a podcast. We'll run that one back. Yeah. A little bit of a size difference now, but
yeah, good. I'll take it.
But from I was very lucky, right? This is awesome, just how the wrestling family works. But I was lucky to be a little kid and get in the front row seat. My dad being team leader at Fargo, you wrestling on junior duals teams with Wade. I got to watch you compete from freshman year all through high school. And so for me, it was a real treat. And for those that didn't, I always talk to kids about it, and it's something that's crazy to think, 2008, right? 2000, I mean, that's 14 years ago, right? Doesn't seem that long ago to me, right? But the success you had at a level, and I think I want to touch on a little bit of you were never shy about talking about this, about what your record was like in 7th or 8th grade. It wasn't a crazy success factor. It wasn't a crazy success rate, right, coming into high school.
Yeah, I took some losses. You know, it's hard to remember exactly how many wins, how many losses
Right.
it was, but by no means would I say I was lighting the world on fire early on in my career, where you know there was a longer development. That I started having more success as time went on, as I got into high school and post high school wrestling.
What was the big, so for me, right, as a little kid, and I was even in high school when I would train, or even at the college level when I would train, me and my brother, me and Wade always would joke, like, what would Andrew Howe do right now, right? Because of the way we watched you work out, and the way this how the way you took control of a workout, right? If you had a 90-minute workout, you drained every second of that 90 minutes, right? And that was something that I watched, and there's a lot of people, right, or have a lot of God gifted ability. Some people are just naturally born freak athletes. Um, and I'm not saying you're neither of those, right? But what separated me watching you and just watching, I've seen a lot of great wrestlers. I've coached a lot of great wrestlers, been teammates with them, right? But the work ethic, and is that what you contribute a lot of that to? Is just, I mean, just I guess, how did you find that, right? Was it finally just something in your head that was just, this is my way to succeed, right?
I think it was fire burning from within, and that fueled me every day. That I wanted to just be the best I could be, and every day I was trying to get better, and that would come from having high intensity workouts, from pushing my comfort zone further and further back, and really trying to open my mind and challenge myself with new techniques, new approaches, and always just trying to be innovative and tweaking certain parts of my training regimen into kind of becoming, building a more high level program for myself, and also just trying to immerse myself in that kind of environment.
And that was another, so leading is perfect. You just said, like, immersing yourself in that environment, because I remember being a little kid watching you wrestle, and that's when overtime, right, was big. There were no real big wrestling academies in Indiana, right? Region Wrestling Academy didn't exist. I think CIA was in its elementary stages. But at the time, like, at overtime, that's where Coach Bourmet was at, correct, at the time?
Yeah. Coach Bourmet was there, and I think I started going to overtime when I was in 8th grade, and it was about a 75-mile drive from where my parents lived in Cedar Lake, Indiana. So that wasn't easy by any means, but that's where that was the club at the time. The best guys were there, and had great coaches. So that's where I wanted to be, and it was well worth all the time in the car, all the extra hours, the late nights. Definitely was big for my development.
Yeah, man, that was pretty cool too. Just going back now and talking about where why we're having this podcast today, right? I mean, it's brought to you by a regional training center now in Fort Wayne, right? That's now opening up and giving these opportunities in academy style off season places to supplement their training, right? And now it's something that's, I'm sure you're seeing it in Chicago too. I know there's Izzy Style, right? And I know Jordan Blanton has started that Relentless Training Center, right? We had Jordan on the show last time, right? And so there's the place, the supplemental training seems like it's everywhere, right? Because it works, right? There's proof that it works. You put elite human beings in elite settings. What are they going to do? They're going to get better.
That's right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool model. Just to see these places emerge and see people seek it out. People will come from all over to go to any one of those clubs, and you hit the nail on the head. You start seeing elite guys hang out with other elite guys, and they're gonna get better. And
that leads me into, like, my next question. So after having just the successful high school career, and you capped it off you came back after your senior year, and because you wanted to go win a Fargo national title, and you went out and won Fargo. What was attractive to Barry, like, to Wisconsin, or what attracted you to Wisconsin and Barry Davis? Was it at the time the RTC? I guess give us that wrap, right? What out of you had that you could have chose anywhere in the country, right? Why Madison, Wisconsin?
I think there was a few things there. I had a great relationship with Donnie Pritzlaff, and he was the one who recruited me hard to Wisconsin. And Donnie was a couple-time national champion at Wisconsin. He was a world bronze medalist. So I knew that I would have a great training partner with him, and somebody to push me, somebody that's been to the highest level, and that's where I wanted to go. So it was important for me to have somebody around me that could show me the way. And I thought that Donnie would be able to do that, and he did. So that was one of the big boxes for me that was checked at Wisconsin. And the other thing was just the core nucleus of guys there. There was a lot of older guys and even some guys that were in the middle of their careers. But after being on campus a couple times, I was able to see that these guys were serious about wrestling, and that the core group of guys there, wanted to do well. They were passionate about it. They worked extremely hard, and they were all a good group of guys. So it was somewhere that I felt like I could fit in, and also that I also thought that it was somewhere that I could have success, being around that group of people.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're talking about that core nucleus. Is that like Rochelle and Graf and?
Graf was in the same recruiting class as me, so I knew he was coming in. I believe Tyler committed before I committed, so that was good to see another guy coming in the class and knowing that you're going to have a strong team as well. But Rochelle was there already. Trevor Brandwell was there already. Zach Tonelli, Kyle Massey, just to name a few.
Yeah, Tonelli's the head coach at Columbia now, right? I mean, that's a lot, right? Yeah, some good, already seeing some good leadership in there.
Yeah, so it was just a great group of guys. Couldn't say enough good things about them, and that.
And so going from there, you went third place as a freshman, correct? Or runner up?
Yeah. And then
champ as a sophomore, and then third as a junior, right?
Yes. And then
right, and then Olympic red shirt.
Yep.
Yeah, and then transfer. I'm telling you, man, it's like my Jeopardy, right? It's like my final Jeopardy question, man, because people don't realize, right? People are giving all these guys this year, they're calling them old. And like, you're the originator of the 6 year deal.
Yeah.
And you didn't even have an extra. You didn't have an extra COVID year to use, man. But if you did, I bet you would have used it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
it
would have been hard to turn down. But
right.
But yeah, so first 3 years I was at Wisconsin, then I Olympic redshirted, trained in Ann Arbor for the 2012 Olympic trials for that year, and then transferred to Oklahoma and redshirted. Actually was expecting to compete right away, but I tore my ACL for the second time in the fall there, so I thought it would be best to get that repaired again, and just redshirt, get healthy, and get ready for the next year to make a strong run. So then first year in Oklahoma turned into a redshirt year, and then finished up my college career in 2014.
Is that so if there are those that aren't as savvy, and before the transfer portal was like NFL free agency, you couldn't, the reason, so you trained at, correct me if I'm wrong, you say, Riley, you're out of line or whatever, that's fine. But you trained at Michigan in 12, right? Because that was the start of like the Bormet era, right? Was he there?
Strong got the job there at Michigan, and in that same year, Pritzlaff also got hired on there, got an assistant job.
And you couldn't transfer inter-conference, right, at the time. So you couldn't go. It really wasn't an option without you sitting out a year, right, if you went from Wisconsin to Michigan. Was that still a factor?
It was that. There was, at the time, no scholarship from Big Ten school to Big Ten school. It would have been repeating a lot of classes, and it just didn't seem like, for what I thought was going to be a 9-month deal to jump through those hoops. And then I would have finished up. Had I known that I was going to tear my ACL again and have a 2-year run to finish up my college career, maybe it would have changed things. But so that's made.
Hindsight's always 20/20, right?
No, and I was really thankful and happy to go to Oklahoma. Looking back on it, it was another great group of people. Jared Frere, who coached me at Wisconsin, was an assistant at Oklahoma, so kind of brought me down there and getting to know and being around and learn from Mike Leitner, who's also another assistant there. Even still, was a lot of fun. And again, great group.
Was Lou the head coach when Roselli? When you
coach
Mark Cody was there, that's right. And then he was the former American coach, right? And then he came over and took over at Oklahoma, and so that was was Frere, and was that a big another just attraction to you too? The guy that had been at the Olympic level and running that that off season, obviously, because your goal was, right? I mean, in 2012, you didn't just, and I'm sorry, I kind of overskipped that. I skipped over that, but like when you were talking about training for 2012, like you didn't just go compete. I mean, you lost in the Olympic trial finals to Jordan Burroughs, right? It wasn't like, hey man, I wrestled really well and went and tried to compete. Like, no, I mean, you were there for the spot. For those that don't remember, I mean, you gave Jordan Burroughs probably the most competitive match that freestyle season that summer. And so was that still the number one goal, even though, right, the Michigan just didn't seem ideal with the credit transfer and, all of that nature, but still the goal was like, I got to go somewhere that's going to prepare me to go win a world title, an Olympic title.
Yeah, that was always the goal. That's the main motivator. There was great workout partners there. And so I thought that Oklahoma was a good fit.
Yeah, that's awesome. So after you wrap up at Oklahoma, you stay down there, and you was it for about 2 years, right? You stayed and coached.
Yeah, I coached 2 seasons there as an assistant.
2 seasons, and then still training. I mean, you went again in 2016, correct?
Yeah, I trained through my 2 years of coaching when I was at Oklahoma, and finished my competitive career in 2016.
And then after that, so now we fast forward to Northwestern, right? How'd you end up back home?
So Jake Herbert was actually in Norman, and he was in for a week training, and brought up the Matt Storniolo, I think was the interim head coach at Northwestern during that time, and Jake said, I think Matt's going to be looking for some coaches. I told Jake that I'd be interested in that, making a move and getting into the Big Ten, and also for my wife and I, it's getting close to family. We're both from Northwest Indiana, and Evanston's about 60 miles from where we were both grown up. So yeah, we were excited about it.
So then later, comes down. Matt does get the job, right? He was named intern like right at the beginning of the season, or may have been like after a dual meet or something. But I remember being like in the fall, and then after he has success, the team, it's obvious that the team likes him, and then you go into that spring. And is that when you come on board, or do you come on board immediately?
Yeah, I think our first conversation was after the Olympic trials, Matt and I's, and then after coming to campus, checking it out, and kind of going through the hiring process. I believe my start date was June 1st. Yeah, so I got on campus and got the ball rolling.
And now you're associate head coach, correct? Got a little promotion, right, since then?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's been good.
promotion, man. It's been a good place. So that's what it's going to keep rolling into it, man. Chicago RTC, right? And I knew that when you were there, when you first got on board, obviously you weren't competing, but you guys brought in Cody Brewer, right? Resident athlete. Um, what is I guess the impact, right? I mean, you guys are freestyle guys, right? And the Chicago RTC, is that something you guys are looking to continue to build upon with your athletes, and I guess like a resident athlete as well?
Yeah, I think it's necessary to compete at the highest level and to consistently be at the top. Then you need a strong RTC. So I think that's an important piece. We've had fluctuations with RTC athletes in the past, and I think that should be something that remains a priority that is continue to be built on. But yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's just an exposure to the next highest level for college guys. There's a lot of confidence to be gained for even young college wrestlers to come in and get their hands on an established competitor at the senior level. Just in terms of feeling like they belong. Maybe it starts small. Maybe they get a takedown, and then they can start holding their own, and they don't get tacked in a 6-minute match, freestyle match, and but then as long as they keep fighting and they keep buying into the process, that confidence is gained, and that's huge for development, I think.
You talk about how it's exploded, like it has really exploded. Like I was having a conversation, at the national tournament, not too long ago, just talking to people about, I pulled up the resident athletes at, I'm not, but for example, like Penn State, right? I mean, they've got world team members from Puerto Rico, and Bexad, right, is on their team, and you look at Michigan, right, and you look at Iowa, and you're right. It's evident that it's necessary, right? I mean, if you're because it's a big recruiting tool, because right, there's other Andrew Howes out there that are coming out of high school and going like, yeah, I'm NCAA wrestling's cool, I love it, I like folk style, but the goal is Olympic gold, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the vision, and I think it's important to be able to provide that vision to guys.
And so I was just kind of chatting about earlier and before you were on the call, continuing on the Northwestern subject of what's unique about Northwestern now, and not only did you have and qualify 10 for the national tournament, but you, like I said, you have 4 All-Americans and a national champ. And I saw a cool tweet from, Matt Sornello doesn't tweet a lot, but when he does, he usually drops a good information bomb on you. And all 10 of those qualifiers are, I guess I'll call them homegrown Wildcats, right? I mean, not one of those was a transfer portal guy. And I think, in fact, you said they were all, you recruited all of them.
Yeah. I guess with the exception of Andrew Davison, everybody we've developed. And Andrew came as a grad student. He finished his time at the University of Michigan, and was looking to continue his college career. And obviously, having his brother Luke was a big draw for him to come to Northwestern. But I think that's one thing that we've done exceptionally well is develop guys, and making sure that they have the right message early on, and it's attention to detail, and that's why we're seeing the success that we've been having. Guys are, for the most part, we're not getting the top recruits, the number one guys in the country. We're getting guys that we believe have the right mentality, who aren't afraid to work, and those guys end up doing incredibly well at Northwestern. Guys who buy into the process, guys who again aren't shying away from working hard, and it's a great group. They have fun too. Um, so yeah, proud of these guys' attention to their details, and taking ownership, and seeing the success that they're having.
Right. Like for those that don't know too, it's like, Northwestern could slide in and blend in just fine in the Ivy League, right? It's not an easy school. Not saying that any Big Ten school is easy to get into, right? But on top of being able to recruit a great athlete, right, you also seriously have to recruit a great student, right? And that's probably the top priority, right? Is like, well, we got to be able to get you in, and they just don't let anybody into Northwestern. And so, what is that when you're looking, and this is maybe for a kid out there, right? That's wants to wrestle at Northwestern, or um, a lot of kids, and you talk to, as me as a high school coach, right? You got to win a state title. You got to and it's not always about winning, now or winning a state championship necessarily, right? There's multiple guys at All American last weekend that never won a state title, right? So what is it when you and Coach Storniolo and Coach Cologne and you guys go out into the field and you're looking for the next round of Wildcats? What's at the forefront of the charge?
Yeah, I think it's just looking for first you got to watch the guy compete, and you gotta see if he's somebody that has the tools and is holding himself to the standard that it's going to take to be able to compete at this next level. Um, you know, that's a big determining factor. Looking to see how guys are controlling the mat, how they're winning. Are they just scraping by and taking injury time at the end of the match? That's usually not a good sign. If they're down, are they really trying to give a full effort and push hard and throw everything that they can at the guy to try to win? And then a lot of times, even if they don't win, that's a big plus. That goes a long way. So after we start seeing those things, then we got to start doing our due diligence and seeing if they can meet admission standards. And those from there, then it's about building a relationship with the guys, getting them on campus, getting them familiar with the coaching staff, getting them familiar with the guys, and yeah.
What's the biggest difference after you being at Madison's massive school, right? Like over 40,000 kids, and Oklahoma's not a small state school by any means. When you are coming down, or when you come up to Evanston, I should say, what's the obviously it's a tough academic school, but what's the big, I guess, like difference, right? What separates in your mind? I'm not saying like from like a kid, right? I mean, but in your mind, what's the big difference that stood out? Like separates Northwestern University from some of the other places that you maybe even you've been.
Yeah, I think it's the total package. As far as you get the best of both worlds, and it's not for everybody, but for the people that really want the best academics, that really want the best wrestling, it's all there. And there's not a lot of places. There's actually no place in the country that can offer the level of academics with Big Ten wrestling that Northwestern can. And it's life beyond wrestling too. There's a vast network that Northwestern athletes get plugged into, and there's a lot of connections that are made and that they have exposure to, that they will be able to tap into if they need to. So it's just about, I think it's about being great on every level.
it's definitely a culture aspect, right? It's not just something that's it's kind of not kind of it's expected of you, right? As a Northwestern student athlete, and that's pretty neat, man. When you're embodied by that culture, it's tough to really fail, right? Um, so going on, what for those that don't or maybe looking at like what does a workout or what does like an off season look like, right? In terms of maybe a high school kid off season. I know a lot of coaches preach, right, going wrestling a lot, getting 40 matches in terms of if you're really serious about your training. And I'm not saying cutting off all your friends and not ever having a social life, right? I mean, everybody's got to be a kid, but what should an off season, a kid that wrestles year round, or what should his training schedule be, look like, or what tournament should he be going to compete at, right? If this is a kid that's wanting to wrestle at the next level, maybe eyeing to wrestle at the Big Ten or D1, D2, whatever it may be. What should his maybe a week look like? Should he be getting in 5 drills a week, and does he need to go to Fargo, Central Regionals? I mean, what are some maybe some Andrew Howe thoughts on this? And I know this will differ from everybody, right? Somebody may say work out every day, and some go 6 out of 7 days. But in your mind, what's a solid go chasing down some goals?
Yeah, I think a good baseline is I think guys should be in the weight room. They should be on a strength and conditioning routine. 3 days a week there, and and then on top of that, I think now you got to start adding some mat workouts in. Whether it's 3 days a week to start, maybe right after March 1st, say for guys in Indiana who just finished up their high school season. They start 3 days a week, getting on the mat. Probably starting to ramp up towards competitions to maybe 4 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week on the mat, I would say, as they're really starting to peak and prepare for big time competitions. So say that's Fargo, then maybe 6 to 8 weeks before Fargo, guys are starting to get extra mat time in, extra mat workouts, and really making that tournament a priority to perform their best at.
And that's the same kind of methodology, that you would use, I guess, and it's really tough in the Big Ten season, right? Because I mean, it's not easy to be like, all right, we can take, start 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, you're wrestling every Friday, Sunday, you're traveling, and you're not just wrestling slotches every Friday, Sunday, right? And so like that, you talk about that 6 to 8 week, and it's comparable to like fight camps and stuff of that nature too, right? That's like the peak time.
Yeah.
And taking that period of training, I think very necessary. And it's good to hear that, just to give kids a gauge, because, I think there's a lot of maybe misconstrued information, right? Of, I've got to run, 10 miles until my legs fall off, and then I've got to go get an Aerodyne workout in, and then I've got to get an hour drill in. And we've both been around. I've been around guys that's how they functioned, right? And everybody works at their own pace, but I think it's just important, just to realize that it takes a lot of maximum effort, right? And I think that's something that when I think a lot about the person you were and the person I watched growing up, and the person talking to you now, I can still hear it in your voice, but it's just like everything you did, right? You, like we talked about, that 90 minutes of workout, or if you had 2 hours in the wrestling room or an hour in the wrestling room, like it was not for 59 minutes and 30 seconds. I mean, it was for every minute, every second you're in there, you were going to drain it for all you had. And like, were you purpose driven, right? I mean, I guess what drives you in your mind? I mean, you can say like, hey, I wanted a state title at the time, or I mean, what is it? Is it purpose driven for you, or what was the nature of the beast, right? What lit the fire that made you put yourself, put yourself into dark places and make yourself crawl out of them?
Yeah. I think it was just a hunger to be the best, and those definitely goals of being state champion, winning Fargo, um, junior world champion, national champion, world champion. Those are all definitely things, accomplishments, tournaments that I was training for. But above that, it was just to be the best wrestler I could, and every day that would motivate me to continue, whether it was becoming stronger to becoming um, more exposing myself to new technique. I think you can get uncomfortable a lot of different ways. You can push yourself mentally, you can push yourself physically, and it's important to have that comprehensive approach to development in order to not just find yourself in a rut where you're just running 10 miles a day, and you're becoming maybe a little bit mentally tougher and physically tougher, but you're not really challenging yourself in on the wrestling side. So I think that growth has to be forced, and guys should really try to find ways to push themselves there. Whether that's watching film, whether that's really getting into some technical positions that maybe they're a little bit uncomfortable with, and maybe not experienced with, and sometimes you got to swallow your pride a little bit and say, I don't know what to do here. What do I do? And then I think if you're doing those things, there's a lot of growth to be had.
That's yeah, man, that's pretty good. I don't have much to comment on it because I was too busy trying to wipe the drool off of my face. That was pretty impressive, man. That's all the things that had to stand there, mouth open, waiting for you to keep saying more. That was man, no, I mean that embodies it, right? I mean it's a will. It's there's some tough days, but I think the best underlying word that you said multiple times, I guess, is just that getting uncomfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you got to become comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's pretty special. So going forward, what's how can guys see Andrew Howe, right? I mean, is Northwestern hosting camps, or are you guys making
camps?
trips?
Yeah, we're working through camps right now. See if that ends up coming through. But we have I guess trying to think of ways outside of that right now. And in the past we've had our RTC workouts open for guys that are in the radius and meet the criteria, of course, that are open workouts. The past couple of years we've been operating a little bit differently.
Yeah, shout out to COVID.
So hopefully there's some ways. I wish I could give you more right now.
No, that's good. I guess one other thing I'll ask you is leaving. I'll put you on the spot. All right, so tougher state tournament, Illinois, Indiana.
Well, I got to.
Don't lie. Like, don't be like just because. I mean, but I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah, I think there's the. I think the one thing that Illinois has is just there's numbers and there's a lot of depth, and so for a state as a whole, it's a very deep state. Indiana, I mean, the Indiana guys are doing extremely well at the next level, and they're having a ton of success. And so there's the big guns, there's the hammers, and guys are getting it done. So I think they're both great state tournaments, great youth programs, and it's just they're a little bit special and unique in their own ways.
Yeah, the depth, man, of the Illinois State tournament is. I was really lucky, right, in college to be around Jack Decco and Jordan Blanton, and just being around that state tournament, man, and the people that that couldn't, that just didn't win that thing, but you see their success at the next level. And yeah, I know I think I know the answer to the question on my end, right? I'd probably say Illinois, but I think you're right, man. This is the first time in a long time where Indiana's you're consistently seeing success, and guys starting to develop, and shouldn't say a long time, right? You had success, and Jason had success, and there's been a lot of success at the Division I level. But it's really special to see though these kids that are going to wrestle, and I wish freestyle was pushed more, and I think that's something where a lot of states, like Illinois, right? The freestyle is big in Illinois. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's
right.
Yeah, it's a high functioning.
I mean, high school season's over, right? High school season's over. It's freestyle.
Yeah, and seeing the team that they bring to Fargo, Illinois brings to Fargo every year is it's impressive.
And there's a reason, right? And I think that's a cool thing that I was kind of leading on to is I don't think we're quite there yet as a state, in terms of getting the best kids to believe and to buy into freestyle wrestling, and but we're making progress, right? And I think it's showing at the next level, and that's exciting to see. But man, I can't thank you enough, man, for taking time out of your day, and just what's to look forward to? Any big recruits are coming through that you can leak us yet, or has anyone signed?
We're pretty tight-lipped.
I mean,
we're pretty tight-lipped.
Tight-lipped up there in Evanston, man. Nothing gets through. No, but your guys, always have success, and always, like you said, seem to find the right human beings, right? And I think that's very important in terms of your culture. But once again, man, thank you for so much. I mean, for you to take time out of your day and just talk about the sport and the importance of it. This is why I love wrestling, man, because an average Joe like me that got to grow up watching you and pestering you can still shoot you a text and be like, hey, man, can you spare 45 minutes of your time for a guy like me? But I don't. No, that's just special. That's why I love this sport, man. That's why I'll probably never be able to get out of it because of relationships like this. And so, Andrew, thank you, man. That you've got a bunch of Wildcat fans back home in Indiana, and so happy for your success and look forward to a lot more of it, man. And hopefully we'll be able to get you, whether it's in Fort Wayne or whether we get you down to Indianapolis. I think that should be a next goal of ours, is having an Andrew Howe camp and bringing them back home.
That sounds fun. Love to do it.
Awesome, man. Well, Andrew, thanks again for your time, man, and look forward to speaking to you sometime soon.
Sounds good, Riley. Thanks.